Good evening and welcome to the Planning Commission meeting of Tuesday, September 12th, 2023. I have something to read before we begin. The city has returned to hybrid public meetings pursuant to AB 361, which allows for deviation from the teleconference rules required by the Ralph M. Brown Act. Residents now have the option to attend the meeting in person or to participate remotely. To participate remotely, residents can live stream the meeting at www.prcity.com/YouTube or call 805-865-7276 to provide public comment via phone. The phone lines will open just prior to the start of the meeting and remain open throughout the meeting to ensure the opportunity for the public to comment on each item heard by the Commission. Written public comments can be submitted via email to planning@prcity.com. Those received prior to 12 o'clock noon the day of the meeting to be posted to the city's website as an addendum to the agenda. If submitting written comments in advance of the meeting, please note the agenda item by number or name. Planning Commission meetings will be live streamed during the meeting and available to play back later on YouTube by accessing the following link, www.prcity.com/YouTube. And please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Connolly?
Here.
Commissioner Marlowe?
Present.
Commissioner Covarrubias?
Present.
Commissioner Davis?
Here.
Commissioner Kogler?
Here.
Commissioner Christensen? Chairperson Neal?
Here.
Record will reflect that Commissioner Christensen is absent. He did let us know he wasn't going to be able to make it tonight.
Staff introductions, please.
Marcy Reynoso and Ashley Peterson, Administrative Assistants.
Warren Frace, Community Development Director.
Katie Bannister, Associate Planner.
Darren Nash, City Planner. Joe Chenard, Contract.
And you have Annie Brandon from BBK on the line.
Great. And now's the time for general public comments regarding matters not on the agenda. Not seeing anybody in the room for that. Is there anybody online, Marcy?
No callers.
Okay, with that, I will close that. Any agenda items to be proposed to be tabled or rescheduled this evening?
Yeah, item G1, which is your first public hearing, there is a recommendation to continue that.
Do I have a motion to continue?
And we would like it continued date certain to the Planning Commission meeting of September 26th.
I'll second it.
Any further discussion? Roll call, please. Or voice vote?
Let's, this is a public hearing, so we should probably open it for public comment before we vote.
And then with that, I'll open it for public comment. Nobody in the Marcy, anybody online?
No callers.
Do I close public comment on this meeting? So we'll close public comment and bring it back to the commission. Roll call, please.
Who was the first on it?
I was.
Kogler.
And second?
Marlowe.
Oh.
Commissioner Kogler?
Aye.
Commissioner Marlowe?
Aye.
Commissioner Connolly?
Aye.
Commissioner Davis?
Aye.
Commissioner Covarrubias?
Aye.
Chairperson Neal?
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0.
And our next item on the agenda is the construction of 14,646 square foot facility for California Custom Trailers and Power Sports, a vehicle sales and service use on previously undeveloped lot. CUP 23-04, PD 23-02, and P 23-0037. Staff report, please.
Thank you, Chairperson Neal. I'm Katie Bannister, Associate Planner. I won't rattle off the numbers again. This is for California Custom Trailers and Motorsports to be located at 3031 Union Road. So here's the location, and I'm going to give you some context for the project as well. So the project is located at the Red Star. This project was part of a larger project that the Planning Commission heard about 2 years ago for Garrett Thiessen Construction, GTC Construction, which is a Tiltep Concrete construction company. So Mr. Thiessen purchased the property and then processed an application for a parcel map to split the lot into 2 lots, and then he also got development plans for both lots with the same building intended on each lot. And that was approved, like, as I said, about 2 years ago. So you can see there in yellow the entire property, and then as it is split, that line in the middle is not perfect. I had to draw it on there, but it's close. And then the red star is where California Customs is proposing a project that is similar but not identical to the previously approved project. So this site is just across from Barney Schwartz on Union Road, just south of Highway 46 East. Off to the east there, you can see Mill Road, which we'll discuss here as well. So recently, Caltrans published an environmental document for some improvements that are intended for Union Road. So something to keep in mind that there is an interchange proposed there at Union Road. So circulation patterns will be changing here. This is just north of the North Chandler Ranch specific plan area. So at some point there will be housing development south of Barney Schwartz, and then we've also got commercial properties to the west and north of the site. So there's been a lot of discussion with the city, with some of the property owners north and east of the property, with the intention of extending or providing a connection road, kind of a parallel route south of Highway 46 East that would connect Mill Road to Union Road, that would allow more development to occur south of Highway 46 East here and east of Union Road. Very conceptually, I'm showing here where the different parties, different private parties have been discussing the potential for a new road. Very conceptual, very preliminary, but someday there may be a road behind California Customs and the Thiessen project next door. So just something to keep in mind as we talk about screening and kind of where the neighborhood is going. So here is a picture took last Friday of the site. Mr. Thiessen has installed frontage improvements. The curb gutter and sidewalk have been installed. A lot of the grading has been completed as well on both of the lots. You can see there on the right side, there is a seasonal drainage on the site, and that is being avoided by both projects. And then in the far distance, you can see the Werrero Creek, and then there is also a slope bank that's about 20 feet. Highway 46 is actually even higher than that as the properties continue to slope up towards the highway. And so even though this is close to Highway 46 East, it's not actually visible from that highway. It is visible, however, from Union Road, of course, which is the perspective we're seeing here. And Union Road is another one of the gateways into the city. So the zoning for the site is, the project is in the C3 PD zoning district. You can see the areas in pink on the map here are all with the same zoning. The area with the orange border is a special conditions area F. And so projects within this orange border have to, are subject, all projects are subject to a conditional use permit. The special conditions are intended to protect residentially zoned land that's adjacent to these properties, and to make sure that noise and visual impacts are limited, and also to make sure that any development that occurs within this area doesn't have a detrimental effect on the downtown. I have highlighted all of the from the air what look like houses. I think it's probably pretty close to where houses are in proximity. The special conditions only require special screening for properties that are zoned for residential that abut the property. In this case, this property does not abut any land that allows residential uses or is not residentially zoned, but there are, just spirit of the law, we want to consider screening for the houses that are there shown on the screen. And so part of the reason the project is here this evening is for the Planning Commission to consider a conditional use permit to allow it. So when this went to the DRC about 2 weeks ago, one of the requests was to have a better understanding of what was previously approved and compare it to the current proposal. So this is the GTC development plan. This is the elevations, the perspective of the building that was previously approved on the site. The California Customs building is similarly sized, but it is different. It's a metal building, whereas the GTC building is going to be tilt-up concrete, and there's a lot more metal used in the California Custom building. This table was provided in the staff report as well, but it compares the GTC project, which is that approved project, with the proposed project. So both the footprint and the overall area of the building is slightly increased, or it's increased by 2,000 square feet. I guess it's not slight, but it is increased in size. The footprint of disturbance, however, is kept the same. We'll look at that on a future slide here. But the GTC project did have 2 stories. There was a mezzanine of about 2,500 square feet, whereas the California Custom building is just 1 story. I did have a typo in the table in the staff report. I think I said the building is only 24 feet 3 inches in the staff report. There is a tower feature that's actually 26 feet, so I'm correcting that here. The GTC project only needed 23 parking spaces. It had more storage than the currently proposed use, which is a vehicle sales use. And so there's more parking spaces required and provided, 35 spaces. Already mentioned the construction type being a metal building for California Custom. And then, of course, the land use is changing from contracted services to vehicle sales. So looking at the site plans, as I said, the California Custom is a bigger footprint, 14,360 square feet, and then the GTC was just a 10,000 square foot footprint. The fenced area in the rear is actually in the GTC project, it was a larger fenced area, but it was the same distance from the Guerrero. So the fenced area is not expanding out towards the river, which is sensitive habitat that is under the jurisdiction of several state and federal agencies. So this project is not getting any closer to the Guerrero nor to the seasonal creek that kind of bisects the property as well. So jumping into the site plan for the California Custom project, there is this blue line here represents the extent of the floodplain for the site. The green area shows where there's jurisdictional and biological resources to be avoided. The orange is the location of the building. Purple, the site will have a temporary on-site septic system. Currently, the city sewer does not extend out all the way on Union Road. Mr. Thiessen has extended the sewer line to the extent that he can, but it doesn't currently connect to an active sewer line. So there will be an on-site septic on the California Customs site, as there is also going to be one on the GTC site. As I said, and I should have corrected that was from DRC. When DRC saw the project, there were only 30 parking spaces. That has been expanded to 35, so I should have changed that label. There are 35 parking stalls proposed on the site. The turquoise line is we saw it on the previous slide. That's where the fence is proposed. That is a 6-foot chain link fence with slats along the front of the fenced yard. That is a black metal fence, which we typically request. It's a more decorative fence, and that is proposed where the fence is somewhat parallel to Union Road. In addition, there is a split rail fence that will be that will match the project at GTC next door. It'll run along the front of the property and then along the seasonal drainage to discourage people accessing that area, but also to contribute to kind of the transition from the agricultural areas to the east of the site. And as you transition into the city, that split rail fence is meant to kind of taper you off from agricultural into more industrial type uses. The site plan does include some display areas now shown in red. So these are the areas where the applicant intends to display the vehicles that are for sale. They're primarily motorcycles and off-road vehicles like quads and golf carts and that type of thing. So they would be stored there on that front paved area. Looking at the floor plan, the bulk of the building is a showroom to show the products for sale. There's a service area where I believe they'll do some minor work on private parties' vehicles, but primarily that area is for constructing those vehicles and getting them ready for sale. And so there's a receiving area there and a covered area that are all for receiving, getting the vehicles ready for sale, and then putting them out on the showroom. So looking at the elevations, there are 3 materials proposed around the top area. There is flat panels, that kind of lighter gray color, and then there's 2 different corrugated metal, or I should say, corrugated, patterned metal. We'll see those specific metals in a future slide here, but this is the front elevation. And then this is the west elevation, so this would face towards the tennis club. And then the north and east elevation, so north would be facing the Guerrero. You can see the roll-up doors there at the back. And then the east elevation is somewhat angled away from Union Road, so it won't be highly visible, but that is what would be facing east. Here are the colors and materials. So the upper area, not the highest, so the upper area, the highest part of the elevation will be the flat panels there on the very far right side, the flat pan. You can see how they look when put together. They're at the bottom, 2 of them together. And then on the left, you see the ash gray PBR panel, which is kind of in the mid part of the building. And then that burnished slate is at the bottom of the building, more of a box rib there at the bottom. Here's some perspective drawings. So this is at the front. Again, from the front, but looking more to the northwest. This is from the yard in the back, looking towards the southeast. There's that covered area. Oh, and I should have taken the previous one out. I thought I had. Oh, no, I apologize. So this is looking more to the southwest. So this is still looking at the rear, but you can see the fencing proposed. I believe the chain link will have slats in it, but you can see it there. Looking at the landscape plan, they're going to landscape the site. There's a range of different drought-tolerant plants proposed and some perimeter screening trees. And here's a list of some of those plant materials that are proposed on the site. So parking, we did a calculation, and the different areas add up to a total need of 35 parking spaces, and 35 parking spaces is what the applicant is proposing for the site plan. So they do meet their parking requirement. The draft resolution does include a number of proposed conditions of approval. There's some misnumbering in the resolution. Unfortunately, the auto numbering got ahead of me in Word. So the first condition number 8 is to observe a 25-foot buffer from the jurisdictional waters. There's some waters of the state on the site. And then number 6 would be that the applicant would not drive any of the vehicles that are for sale off the road, nor within the Guerrero riverbed. There would be allowance for street legal vehicles to be driven on the street as they are legally allowed to do, but none of the off-road vehicles would be able to be driven in the vicinity or off the site. The 7th would be that no vehicle display would occur in the required parking spaces. The California Customs does have an existing site off of Golden Hill Road near Highway 46 East, and there is currently some storage and parking spaces. So this was to make sure that adequate parking is provided for customers and the staff. Number 8 would require a lighting plan. We didn't have one to present to Planning Commission, and I think staff can handle it, but there's a requirement that when the building comes in, we'll see a lighting plan so that staff can make sure that the lighting is respectful of the neighbors and doesn't spill onto neighboring uses. Number 10 would require an amendment to the landscape plan to require some native shrubs and trees at the back of the property north of the chain link fence. There's already some oak trees and native vegetation back that way towards the Guerrero, but as we discussed, there will be likely a future road to the north of the site, and we want to make sure that the storage area is well screened. There's some additional conditions about not hanging things on the fences, signs, nor temporary fabric. The site is currently shown on FEMA flood maps as being within a flood zone. The project engineer has determined that most of the site is not actually within the flood area, and so the applicant will need to apply to FEMA for a letter of map revision for fill within within the floodplain. We do have Joe Chenard with us this evening if we have any questions about the FEMA issues. As always, the Planning Commission needs to make a series of findings in order to approve a project. Many of them are standard condition or findings that we see, but things to be aware of, that these are statements that the Planning Commission is making about the project in order to approve it, that the project is consistent with the goals and policies of all the different codes and standards and plans that the city has adopted. There's a list of different plans that the project would need to comply with and be consistent with, that the project isn't detrimental to the welfare of its neighborhood, and we've got some noise and light conditions to address that. The project needs to accommodate the aesthetic quality of the city, especially because this is a gateway area. The Union Road is a gateway to the city. The project needs to be found to be compatible with the scenic and environmental resources, and I think we've shown that they are not impacting the jurisdictional areas as required by those agencies. And then the project is not to have an adverse effect on public views, and so that's another finding. Finally, the project won't be detrimental to the city's efforts to revitalize the downtown. That's a requirement of that special conditions area F, and so typically a vehicle sales use isn't what we want to see right in our dense downtown, and so staff feels comfortable recommending that that finding can be made. So there was an environmental document prepared for the GTC project, which included the parcel map, the development of each lot, and even operation. As we said before, the project does have similar impacts and similar environmental impacts, and so no additional environmental review is required. This is an image of that jurisdictional creek that runs down the middle of the property that needs to be avoided, and the mitigation measures from that CEQA document from 2 years ago are included in the conditions of approval. So this project is subject to all of those mitigation measures as well. So the Planning Commission has several options. The first would be to adopt the project, or to approve the project by adopting the draft resolution. That would approve both the development plan and the conditional use permit to allow use of the site. If the Planning Commission wants to see changes or there's amendments that need to be made, they can do that and to that resolution and continue to approve the project. If the Planning Commission needs more information, you could refer it back to the DRC for more review, or back to staff if we need to gather more information. If the Planning Commission believes they can't make any of the required findings, they could deny the project by adopting findings of denial. Staff is recommending that the Planning Commission approve the project by adopting the draft resolution. And that concludes staff's report.
Great, thank you. This time we typically hear from the applicant. Does the applicant like to make a presentation this evening?
Good evening. Larry Gabriel, architect, 530 10th Street. As usual, following Katie, there's not much left to say. She's covered everything. We met with the DRC and they had a couple comments, and we think we picked those up. We picked up the other 5 parking stalls and enhanced the east elevation. The 2 primary ones. We also added the post and rail fencing all the way back to the east fence where they gather together. So I think those were the primary things that we had in the DRC. We think we've pulled this package together and met all the other requirements, and we're pleased and proud to put this project in front of you, and we're here for answer any additional questions you might have.
Great, thank you. At this time, I'll open it up to the commission for comments or questions of staff or the applicant. Commissioner Marlowe.
Yeah, I think it looks good and it looks consistent with what it was there before. My only thought was I saw there's a leach field when you're entering in the back area that seems to be right off the driveway, and that's a storage area, but there's 3 roll-up doors, and maybe there's no rule against it, but in my past experience of selling leach fields, we put them in places you're not driving over them, especially with heavy equipment. I don't know if it's a California building code requirement or if there's any issue. So I guess my question is there a plan to drop large vehicles or do deliveries back there? And if so, is there a minimum depth requirement to the leach field for it being in a place that you drive?
We have no large 18-wheeler deliveries. They're going to be basically pickups and 24-foot trailer kind of things. The The septic is in the asphalt area and the leach fields have been moved out back in there. So the only driving back and forth, which should be the ATV vehicles and those kind of things, are going back and forth into the roll-up doors.
And so like the 24-foot trailer loaded up would never pull back there?
It's pulling back to the asphalt and unloading under the canopy.
And there's no requirement for weight over a leach field? I've never seen one on the spot where you drive. So if it's legal and all good, I think that's fine.
Tim Roberts is online. Exactly. So if we can.
Sure.
Pull them up.
Tim, if you want to unmute yourself, you're welcome to comment.
I think I did it. This is Tim Roberts, civil engineer. Am I coming through there?
Yes,
Hello?
you are. Yes.
Oh, good. Okay, yeah, good question. We have the most recent plan has relocated you can see the trenches at this point for the temporary leach field. We do have them in an area that is not routinely driven over. You are correct, the commissioner that voiced this. You don't want to be driving over leach fields. In this particular case, we need to maintain our setback from the river, of course, or the creek. And also the leach field that we're proposing at this point in time, while it's designed to be there, it is really temporary in nature until such time as the city moves forward and installs the community. This is a lift station right across from Barney Schwartz Park. We've already got the sewer plumbed so that it can connect and this system could be abandoned and connected. So as soon as that happens, this leach field will go away. We will not need it any longer. But at this point in time, the little amount of traffic and the light vehicles that will traverse over the system should not be an issue.
Should not or will not?
Will not. Again, it's not. It's a temporary situation here, and I don't see it being an issue. I'm pretty experienced with septic over the last 45 years of doing this, so I don't have a concern in this installation.
Okay, great. I just saw the storage doors back there, so I didn't know what the plan was for moving vehicles in and out of there. So as long as you feel confident, I just was curious. So that's really my only question. Everything else I think looks really, really nice.
Commissioner Conley, any questions this evening?
Yeah, with and it's not in this package, but with the introduction of a potential circulation behind here, is it Mill Creek? So staff was explaining that there'd be a potentially local circulation to go parallel to the highway and connect. And my question is, with that going in and the view shed now opening up to the rear side, what type of fence is being proposed on the east side where it would be visible from that arterial that potentially will go in? If you understand my question.
So the fencing around the three sides of the storage yard would be chain link with slats. The front fence, let's see if I can, oh, well, that might actually, so you can see here it's just shown as chain link. I believe there'll be slats in it, and that'll be around the sides and rear of the storage yard. The front of the storage yard would have the black metal fence.
Okay, so is that a standard the city approves within a view shed with the slats in there?
And it's a mixed issue because we don't necessarily want to see storage from offsite, but,
Okay.
Determining what the best screening method is
Okay.
up to the Planning Commission.
So I was just curious if that's the type of fence we want in a view shed. I agree the slats are an improvement, but it is chain link. So anyway, that's my only concern or question. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any questions, Commissioner Davis?
Just to follow up on that, Katie, would there be a combination of landscaping and the slat fence for the shed?
So the rear of the property has space enough, and I suppose you could also fit some on the east side of that fence. The west side, I believe the fence is right up on the property line. Is that, I believe, is accurate? I'll get the site plan back up. So currently, the conditions of approval would require additional screening on the rear of the fence. To the east of the fence, there's a stormwater basin. It probably would be possible to get some additional native plants. We could talk to the civil engineer and the landscape architect to see what's appropriate there. But as you see on the west side, the fence is proposed right against the property line currently.
Okay. I just think a combination of landscaping might help a little bit with the shed. My question, I guess, first is to you, Katie. I remember when it came before us in 2021, and explain to me, the applicant was then Thiessen, and the applicant is now for this.
Correct, yeah. I believe Mr. Thiessen still owns both lots, but is in the process of selling this, it's called Parcel 1, to the applicant, to California Custom.
And so new partners, I mean, just all the entitlements go with property is what you're saying.
So the way the entitlements were written was that if someone wanted to come in and do that exact project, that exact building, if they want, some other contract construction business came in, use that building, use the same site plan, it was turnkey, they could come in and use it. When they wanted to make modifications, this amendment was needed. And so now you're essentially approving a completely new conditional use permit and development plan. They are relying on the existing environmental documents, but the approvals would be new for this applicant.
And so would we anticipate for the other parcel for this original building as originally approved would come forward?
Yes, Mr. Thiessen is continued pursuing the development on his lot, which is the more easterly lot. We've issued grading permits and we have reviewed, I'm not sure how many rounds we've gone on the building permit, but we have been reviewing that project.
So rather than two identical buildings, you'll have two unique looking buildings on the overall property. Okay, I think I've got it clarified there. Another question that I had, when we look at the back area, is there a slope where some of those vehicles are going to be parked? It looks in the graphics like there might be a considerable slope. I'm just curious about that. And I'd like to know a little bit about how many vehicles back there. And then I'd like to talk about the vehicles on display in front. Good.
Well, I think you can see the grade lines where there's 8, 3, and 9 is fairly shallow slope. And then after you get past the chain link fence, it turns into a steeper slope down to the Waro there. So that's all DG for working and driving area back there, but I don't think we have a steep slope at all.
Okay, I was just curious about it. It looked like in the graphics that there might be a considerable slope. And so the kinds of vehicles that will be parked there and the amount?
You know, they have us a 4-wheel drive Polaris vehicles and some of those things. And I would, Alan Scroggins is online as well. He can speak better to what's going to be stored back there. So maybe if Alan speak up.
Yeah, I'm familiar with some of those vehicles, but I just kind of wanted to know the quantity and the type.
Yeah. Is Alan up?
Mr. Scroggins, if you'd like to speak, you're welcome to unmute your microphone and join the meeting.
And please obviously state your name and address, please, when you speak.
Yes, my name's Alan Scoggins with Scoggins Site Development. Can you guys hear me?
We can. Thank you.
Okay. Yes. So the vehicles mainly it's an unloading to be built yard basically. So all the vehicles that are built and ready for sale will be housed in the building. The few vehicles that are out, the reason why we designed the front of the building with those doors the way they are is they'll be pushed in and out during business hours. So there'll be very few vehicles out in the front. As far as the storage in the back, there will be, I can't tell you that there's 10 vehicles or 20 vehicles back there, but I could tell you that there's not going to be public back there walking through a field of vehicles, if that's what you're asking.
Okay, so those are vehicles for sale or vehicles to be worked on or both?
Yeah, they're basically, that's where they'll get them. They'll be in crates. They uncrate them. They build them inside the building. Then they're out in the showroom for sale.
Okay, and then the front area, the display there, will they go in at night or will they be stored out?
Yes. No, they will be inside at night.
Okay. All right.
The way we designed this showroom is kind of like an indoor-outdoor kind of showroom so that we can really utilize the space as well as we can. So
if I can, can you pull up that front elevation? We have overhead doors right next to the storefront to bring the vehicles in and out. So that's what he's talking about, how we made it really convenient to bring them in and out.
To push them in. Yeah.
And leave the doors open on nice days and that kind of thing. So the door to the right and the door to the left are the overhead doors on the elevations here.
Okay. And actually, this is back to Katie. I know we talked about the corridor and the circulation. What kind of analysis have we looked? Maybe this goes back to the original with Thiesen's development, but with the circulation there across from Barney Schwartz Park, was there any assessment of safety entry and being near the park?
Joe Chenard, I wonder if you might comment. So unfortunately, Joe did not review the Thiesen project, but he's been helping to review this project. So so he's not familiar either. Darren's going to join us.
It looks like there's wide entrance in and out. I'm just thinking about, the.
So Darren Nash, city planner. So the zoning of this area is a C3 zone. So the zoning's been C3 for quite some time. So the design of Union Road and improvements that were done along this frontage allow the width for the future lanes along with the Barney Schwartz improvements. The city did a pretty extensive widening and repaving, striping, crosswalks. So there was quite a big city project that was done, lighting as well in front of the sports club, and then these continue those on. So as far as the road and site distance, there isn't an issue related to in and outs in relation to the park. The Barney Schwartz Park entry and exits are in other areas be away from the entrance here. So
it appeared
shouldn't be a problem as far as a safety concern.
All right, thank you. That's all I have for right now. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Commissioner Covarrubias, any questions?
I was on DRC, so I want to thank Larry and his team for addressing the few things that we had talked about. It's like he covered everything. Katie, a question for you for clarity. Can you go to your zoning graph that you had there where it showed where all the residential properties were, possibly? So I'm curious, when you look at where our property is located and you see the Railroad Creek there, the elevation, when you look at that residential property that's there, is that property higher or lower than our proposed property?
So the property to the north and west, kind of surrounding the property, is actually owned by the Butterfield family and the Ravine Water Park. They actually use a portion of that as overflow parking for the ravine. The aerial view shows a building that appears to be, there's a lawn. It appears that there might be a residence there, but it's surrounded by commercial uses. It's not, a standard suburban house, but at an abundance of caution, I showed it there because from the air, it looks like there might be someone living there, but it's more of a caretaker situation, if anything.
Okay, because that's what I was kind of really curious about, because I saw and I read about the special conditions area F. Mm-hmm. So because the zoning is currently C3, so that means that if that is a residence, then it still falls within, it doesn't have any kind of residential zoning overlay to it, right?
That's correct. Yeah, I think I believe that house is probably there since before the city annexed in that property. And so it's there. I think there might be someone living there, but it's not a residentially zoned property. It is 20 feet at least higher than the subject property is 20 feet lower than the house that you see there. They are pretty far apart in space. And then you've got 20 feet of difference. Darren, did you want to?
No, I was just going to answer your question about the difference in height. I think that bluff is quite higher on the north side of the creek than these properties on the south side.
That's south side. Okay. Just only because when it talks about, solid blocking visually, just thinking, okay, if that is, so here's a question that I just thought of. If that property turns out to be a residential property and for some odd reason it burned down, could that person apply for a burn down letter? And do you know if it would be granted? I guess what I'm wondering is the future development. I understand it's Butterfields. I would assume that the future development of that would be more commercial oriented versus a single family residence.
So unless a mixed use overlay or some sort of process was gone through, no, residential use is not an allowed use in the C3 zone, other than caretaker residences.
Other than caretaker. Okay. All right. I'm good. That's all I had. Thank you.
Commissioner Kogler, any questions of staff or the applicant?
Yes, a few. I guess I'm looking at this truthfully a little more carefully because it's an entry point to the community. And so I'm curious, the front, there are 3 areas identified as display products. And as was indicated, those apparently will come in at night, but that is the only place they can be. Is that correct per the plan?
The conditions of approval would require storage and yes, as shown in the, it's going to take me a while to get there with all the animations, but the red squares at the front of the.
Okay. Is the 8,700 square foot showroom significantly bigger than the existing operation?
I think that's a question for either Larry or Mr. Scoggins.
Yes,
Okay.
it's quite a bit larger than the existing facility. And I think maybe what you're alluding to is there's quite a bit of things happening in the parking lots in terms of storage. And maybe not even displayed as mostly storage of vehicles in the existing area. So this is quite a bit of covered square footage.
That's a very accurate statement. So the storage yard in the proposed use, how large is that? Any idea?
So you can see it's the area in turquoise. So the building there is about 14,000 square feet. It's, probably in about that range. It might be.
Yep, that's a close enough parameter. I'm just, in the back of my head, just trying to figure out, there is a lot of storage on the existing site. This operation also has a lot detached from that at Mesa and Vanderlip, where they have a lot more trailers. I was just wondering, does all of that fit in this storage area? And I would trust that it has to, because there's none of that to be allowed on the front. So I can let that stand as just a comment. The staff report talks about sale of cars. Is that a part of this proposal at all? Because I did not see that.
No, I don't believe the applicant sells cars. When you look in the land use tape, the zoning ordinance, the line item that most closely matches is vehicle sales, and it does have kind of in parentheses recreational vehicles. It does include this type of vehicle.
So if there were a proposal to sell cars, would that have to come in for a modification of the conditional use permit?
They wouldn't be able to store any vehicles in the parking lot, but if a vehicle sales use came in that was, storage similar to these, the way the conditional use permit is written, I think they could continue to operate here. It would be a vehicle sales. It would have to be new vehicle sales.
Okay, I did note that in the ordinance. Last question, I think on the fencing is chain link with slats. Is it black chain link? Is it galvanized chain link? And it's 6 feet tall, is that correct?
6 feet tall is what's proposed. I've never seen anywhere that said it was going to be coated with black. So that's currently not in the proposal as I understand it.
Okay.
It would just be galvanized.
Commissioner Kogler, on note 8 says a chain link fence with dark gray slats. It does not say black chain.
All right, thank you for that clarification. And Katie, you just made a comment a few minutes ago that said, paraphrasing, we don't want to see storage. Things that are stored we don't want to see ideally, and obviously that happens sometimes. 6 foot fencing with slats, are they allowed to store materials at a height taller than 6 feet?
The ordinance does not limit the height of items stored, as I recall. Darren's going to correct me, it looks like.
There's areas of the zoning code that talk about if it's going to be higher than the fence, that it be stored closer in and not at the edges. I think that has to be more with a specific storage yard that's adjacent to a public street. I think the commission could add a condition of approval if they wanted to limit the height of the storage. It might be a good idea to ask the gentleman online who is familiar with the business on, the heights of things, if they stack things, that kind of thing. But we'd have to take a look at the specific ordinance and if it's a location or not. But there is some language in the zoning code about products higher than and having to be set more interior than on the edges.
Okay. the building obviously would serve as a screen from the public street. The only reason I ask, the existing site has racked storage with, it looks like accessories or parts that are clearly taller than 6 feet. There's a series of them. So I wondered about the permissibility of that kind of storage within an area that's an entry to the community.
Mr. Scoggins, do you want to comment on the existing storage on the existing site?
Yes, so the rack storage that you're referring to, you know, the lot that they're in is not ideal for their use, obviously. That's why we're proposing this. We're trying to with, you're right, they have some tractor buckets and stuff like that stored up on some racking. I'm not foreseeing that happening here. You know, there's plenty of room for storage in this proposed area, so I don't think the height requirement would be a necessary item, in my opinion, but.
Thank you.
No further questions? And I was on DRC when this was, as Commissioner Covarrubias said, they did a lot to address a lot of my questions. So seeing no further questions from the commission, I'll open up the public hearing. Not seeing anybody else in the room. Is there anybody online that would speak to this, Marcy?
There are no callers.
Great, and with that, I will close the public hearing and bring it back to the commission. Any further questions of the applicant? Seeing none. Katie, I did notice on page 117, on the site-specific conditions of approval, item paragraph 4, I think that should be September 12th, 2025.
So you're saying on page 1? Page
117, Exhibit A, Planning Division, Conditions, Item 4, the approval of Development Plan 23-02 and Conditional Use Permit 23-04 shall expire on September 12th, 2023. That would be a lot of effort for not a whole lot of gain, I think.
Good catch, yes.
And with that, is there a motion?
Yes, sir. I'd like to make a motion that we adopt draft resolution PC 23-XXX approving development plan 23-02 and conditional use permit 23-04.
I'll second that.
Great. And will that include the requested changes on page 117?
Yes, sir.
And does that include the limiting of the height of storage adjacent to the fencing?
I guess for further discussion on that, so to clarify, any storage cannot be higher next to the fence or in general higher than the fence regardless of location.
Questions or
kind of goes back to what Darren was mentioning as far as storage.
I think, go ahead, Commissioner Kogler.
Obviously, regulating view sheds from all around this, particularly given the topography, is an impossible task. You're going to see something. There's no question about that. I don't know that it's necessary to limit the height, but any way we can encourage the applicant to store anything that's taller closer to the building than on the periphery of it, where it will be better screened, I think would be appropriate.
I would absolutely concur with that.
So then,
and I guess I need to amend my second to include that.
So I think that there is no adjustment to that motion based on storage height. And then, so the only addition to the motion is the correction on page 117, Exhibit A.
Right, for the year.
Okay.
Is that 2027?
It's 2025.
25, okay. Okay, I concur.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Commissioner Covarrubias?
Aye.
Commissioner Connolly?
Aye.
Commissioner Marlowe?
Aye.
Commissioner Davis?
Aye.
Commissioner Kogler?
Aye.
Chairperson Neal?
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0.
Okay. And with that, that closes the public hearings for this evening. Discussion items?
There are no additional discussion items.
Great. On the consent calendar, Planning Commission meeting minutes for the 8th and the 22nd of August, and Development Review Committee meeting minutes for July 31st, August 7th, and 14th. Any discussion or comment on those?
Yeah, I noticed August 28th wasn't in there, maybe because it hasn't been compiled yet for the Development Review Committee, August 28th.
They're not ready yet.
That's
Okay.
most likely the case.
Okay, great.
Is there a motion to approve the consent calendar?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Roll call, please.
Commissioner Covarrubias?
Here.
Commissioner Connolly?
Aye.
Commissioner Marlowe?
Aye.
Commissioner Davis?
Aye.
Commissioner Kogler?
Aye.
Chairperson Neal?
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0.
And on to other reports. I suspect there is not anything on the Paso Robles Street Ad Hoc Committee.
No, so our next step is to get to the city council. We're probably looking at end of October, early May in terms of when we'll have a council date available based on the reorganization issues at the council currently.
And then the HCOC and zoning code update report.
So in August, they did review the zoning code, so that is coming up on your next agenda. Will be a review of the draft that has been through HCOC.
Great, thank you. And then Development Review Committee rotation schedule. Commissioner Kogler and I are switching our dates. I will take the 18th. Commissioner Kogler will take the 25th. Any other potential hiccups, roadblocks? Seeing none. Now the Planning Commissioner comments. Commissioner Marlowe, any comments this evening?
Oh, no, just thanks to staff for the reports and appreciate it.
Commissioner Conley, any comments?
Likewise, I appreciate the staff report. I don't have any other comments.
Commissioner Davis?
No comments, but thank you to staff.
Commissioner Covarrubias?
Yep, no comments other than thank you.
Commissioner Kogler?
I'll go along with the group, but I do have a question that doesn't require an answer now. When we approved the Sky River plan, there's been construction there lately that they've been improving things in front of the building right up to the street. Was that part of the original plan? I don't recall. Again, you don't have to answer that tonight, just to make staff aware, I'm sure you are, that there's been activity there.
Part of the conditions was frontage improvements, so curb gutter, sidewalk. So that's what's being worked on. And then they also changed from a detention basin that's been there to underground chambers. So they're reworking their on-site drainage. So that has to do with the on-site drainage as well as the frontage improvements.
It seems in the process on the private side that the display area has intensified. Next time you're over there, just take a look.
Yeah, and I'm not sure that wasn't part of what was shown at the commission, but we'll take a look at that.
That's what I couldn't recall either, Darren. Thank you.
Great, and I don't have any comments other than I have to say thank you, and I mean it, but thank you. Staff comments, please.
Yeah, a couple updates. So you may have heard that Councilmember Hammond has been appointed mayor. He will serve the remainder of Mayor Martin's term, which is approximately another 3.5 years. So I think that's through like 2026. So him being appointed to mayor, then he vacates his seat. So he represented District 1, which is kind of the north part of downtown, across the River Oaks area, as well as the airport area. So the council direction is to take applications from citizens within District 1 that'd be interested in filling that seat. They expect to interview those applicants toward the end of the month, and it's likely they will appoint one of those candidates to that vacant seat in early October. So that's kind of what we're assuming. Those applications are available right now. I think they closes next week. So if anyone's interested or know anybody that's interested, you have basically a week and a half to get an application in on that.
A quick question, Warren. Did I read that that person will be appointed to fill out the term through the end of till 2024 election, the general election?
Till the next election.
Okay.
So basically for a year. We mentioned that the draft zoning code's been through HCOC. You'll be seeing a portion of it at your next meeting. We've got a couple other projects. The Covelop project on Ardmore is getting ready. It'll probably be October. You'll see that. There's a mixed-use project on Spring Street. Probably in November we'll be ready. We're also reviewing short-term rental policies and procedures, basically kind of administration and enforcement. So we'll be bringing something to the commission probably before the end of the year that you'd recommend on to the city council. We talked about streetscape in November, most likely. Staff's really busy right now with the Olson specific plan, the Beechwood specific plan, and the Gateway Resort project. So all of those are moving into construction phases. So a lot going into reviewing improvement plans on all three of those projects. So that's about 2,000 housing units and probably another 400 hotel rooms potentially between those three projects. And then you'll recall you approved that additional apartment project on Creston Road in Rolling Hills that I guess we refer to as a Red Tail 2 project. They have applied for a grading permit, so they are definitely moving ahead quickly with construction. So I would not be surprised to see some, earth moving happening out there in the next, 30 to 45 days or so. So that's good. That'll be another 150 plus rental apartment units for the city.
And fencing went up on Friday.
So that's a sign something's happening. So don't be surprised. And then the city is also going to be working on the Creston Road improvements. So that's a project that's going through basically the bidding process. I think we have, a contract awarded. So we'll also start to see improvements basically from Rolling Hills down to the river, which will definitely improve that corridor at the same time. So a lot of good things happening on that corridor. That'll conclude my comments. Darren, anything else? That's staff's comments.
Great. Thank you very much. And with that, do I have a motion? If there's no further questions of staff, do I have a motion to adjourn? Sure. And all in favor? Aye. Thank you very much, everybody. Have a great evening.